Hey you watching this? Where in the world are you right now? Seriously, drop it in the comments. I love seeing someone from Tokyo watching at 3 a.m. Me, or someone from Texas, microwaving pizza rolls while pretending it's just background noise. Or wherever you are, welcome. Today, you and I are waking up in Velentia, a place so miserable. Even the rats have unionized. You're not a hero. You're not a chosen one. You're Cassian, a broke laborer who just tripped over a pigeon and lost a week's pay. And your day is about to get a whole lot worse. We're talking cursed chamber pots, 4-story death stairs, public toilets with more drama than a soap opera, and street vendors yelling about fermented eels before sunrise. But here's the thing, this isn't just about ancient grossness. It's a journey through the weird, hilarious, horrifying realities of daily life that most history books completely skip. And if you stick with me till the end, and I really hope you do, you'll come out the other side with a brand new appreciation for modern plumbing, private bathrooms, and your shoes, especially your shoes. So, like the video if you're already mildly horrified, subscribe if you want more painfully real history, and let's descend together into the strange, smelly underbelly of Velentia. Ready? Deep breath. Don't inhale too much. Let's go. Waking up in Velentia and immediately regretting it. You're not a hero. You're Cassian Tileslipper, a man who once tripped over a goat and lost a month's pay. Welcome home. Before we tumble down the spiral staircase of Valentian misery, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this tragic time travel adventure. No pressure. No spellbinding contracts with minor gods. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what time is it where you're watching? I like to imagine someone in Oslo watching this while microwaving pizza rolls. You wake up in Stackhouse 9, in the heart of Valentia's working district, a place where dreams go to ferment and rats pay rent. Your mattress is not a mattress. It's a flattened sack of straw, slightly mouldy, thoroughly uneven, and suspiciously warm in one corner. The blanket wrapped around you was once wool. Now it's mostly despair. Your back aches from the stone floor poking through the mat. Your neck is twisted like a sculptor gave up halfway. And your left leg is still asleep, lucky thing, because it spares you from feeling the itch of at least 3 species of bed lice. You open your eyes and immediately wish you hadn't. The room, generously called so, is the size of a bread oven. There's a ventilation hole in the wall, but it mostly ventilates pigeon poop and neighbor arguments. Light doesn't so much enter as sneak in when no one's watching. From above, footsteps creak. From below, someone's singing a broken version of the national anthem, possibly naked. Valentia's stack houses are built vertically, like towers of timber regret, each floor stacked on shaky bricks and prayers to the minor god Volcris. Keeper of stability, also roofs. You sit up, bad choice, your head thumps from dehydration, and your mouth tastes like old garlic and secondhand smoke. You perform the daily ritual, checking that your 4 worldly possessions are still there. Tunic with holes and a mysterious stain shaped like a goat. Clay mug which leaks slightly, but in a charming way. Wooden comb broken in 2, used mostly as a scratcher. A chipped bronze coin blessed by a street magician, probably cursed. No shoes. You pawned those 2 days ago for a bowl of lentil porridge and lies. You glance to the corner. Ah yes, the jug of dread. Your repurposed water jug turned emergency night pot. It's half full or half empty. Either way, it needs to be dumped 3 floors down, past a grumpy elderly woman who throws turnips at anyone walking too loud. Your room has no door, just a hanging cloth you found at the refuse market. The curtain waves gently in the breeze, giving you a front row view of the hallway, where a child is peeing into a boot and someone is painting political slogans with fish guts. You pull on your tunic, inhale deeply, cough, kak, and decide it's best to stop inhaling. Velentia is not a city. It's a civic accident that got out of hand, founded allegedly by a prophet who misread a map. Velentia has no central government, 3 different currencies, none of which are accepted by merchants, and a population that communicates largely through shouting. Gods are worshipped fervently, albeit inconsistently. You yourself once made a burnt offering to Tira, goddess of jammed windows, when you were locked inside your room for 7 hours by a pigeon sitting in the frame. You have no official job. You are Cassian Tileslipper, a freelance laborer who sometimes carries bricks, sometimes fixes roofs, and sometimes gets paid in expired cheese. You are not important. You are not special, but you are alive. And in Velentia, that's worth bragging about. If Stackhouse 9 had its own social app, it would be called Gripe. You scroll. Cassian just fell through the 3rd floor again. Send help or bread. Old Man Frusk is shouting about pigeons being spies. Again, rating today's communal toilet. 2 stars, still better than yesterday. If you had to invent a social media platform for a crumbling, chaotic ancient city, what would you name it? Scroller, BrickTalk. Drop it in the comments. Let's build this dysfunctional digital dystopia together. Your stomach rumbles a primal cry of revolt. There's no kitchen. Cooking indoors is a crime punishable by public smirking and moderate whipping. So you'll need to find something on the street, preferably something edible, or just less aggressive than a pigeon. But first, you must descend the staircase, the ultimate test of balance, bravery, and belief in insurance that doesn't exist. You grip your jug of dread, peek into the hall, and begin your journey down the crooked, splintery spine of Stackhouse 9. Each step creaks like it's thinking about breaking, and you pass the door of Mad Auntie Briella, who sells curses out of a soup pot, and once hexed a tomato for looking smug. You reach the bottom. Congratulations. Your pot is intact. Your knees are not outside. The sun is already judging you, and a donkey is blocking the alley with a blank stare. It's only 6. Dosia. And Velentia has already tried to kill you twice. The day has begun. Next stop, the public toilet. Where privacy is a myth, sponges are shared, and conversations are uncomfortably eye contacty. Smash that like button if you've ever had to carry your dignity down 4 flights of stairs in a leaky jug. And don't go anywhere. Chapter 2 will take you into the one place worse than your bedroom, the Lavatorium Maximus. Lavatorium Maximus, where shame goes to drown. Some cities have fountains. Velentia has shared holes and awkward eye contact. Still here, brave soul, Cassian survived the staircase. But now, he faces something far worse than falling timbers or sour lentils. The Valentian public toilet complex, also known as Lavatorium Maximus. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, especially if you've ever used a restroom. So public, you made eye contact with a stranger mid-wipe, and comment below. What's the worst toilet you've ever seen? No photos. Please. Just trauma. Cassian shuffles into the street, eyes blinking against the dusty sun. It's not bright. Just judgmental. Valentia's morning light has a way of making everything look one shade worse. To his left, a man yelling at a wall. To his right, a child selling fresh eggs that may or may not be rocks. Across the road, a dead chicken wearing a hat. No one acknowledges any of it. It's just another Tuesday. But Cassian has no time for existential poultry. He's carrying the jug of dread. And if he doesn't empty it soon, he risks being fined by the waste scribe, a bored man in a purple sash who writes violation tickets with a feather dipped in passive aggression. The Lavatorium. Maximus stands at the edge of the square. Architecturally speaking, it's a triumph. Socially, it's a tragedy. Imagine a long, curved stone bench with dozens of holes, side by side. No dividers, no shame. Beneath the bench, a shallow channel flows with water slow, inconsistent, and almost symbolic. Cassian arrives to find all his favorite strangers already seated. Old men, cranky women, a bard playing a lute with one hand. No one seems particularly embarrassed. In Velentia, modesty is a luxury. Defecating while negotiating grain prices is just efficiency. Cassian picks a seat. It's lukewarm. To his right, a man humming and shelling peas. To his left, a woman who appears to be knitting something from disappointment. Across from him, a teenager staring directly at him, chewing figs with the dead-eyed stare of someone who has seen too much. No doors, no partitions, just eye contact and echo acoustics. You don't come to Lavatorium Maximus for peace. You come because the alternative is being caught relieving yourself behind Temple of Mildly Acceptable Virtues, which carries a public flogging and 1 week's ban from the cheese market. Behind Cassian, mounted on a hook, is the tercillum, the sacred Valentian sponge on a stick, soaked in brine and mild community despair. It is passed down from user to user, rinsed between efforts theoretically, and has been in service longer than most mayors. Cassian looks at it. The tercillum looks back. He considers using his sleeve. He considers pretending he's already clean. He considers leaving and never returning. But social rules are strict here. If he skips the sponge, he may face the stare a judgmental glare from the sponge warden, an old woman named Glamour, whose sole job is to enforce full sponge compliance. Question of the day. If you had to name the sponge warden in your town, what would you call her? Mine's Glamour. Yours could be Dame Wipe-A-Lot. Drop it in the comments. Cassian wipes, lightly, hesitantly, prays to Volcrus, god of questionable sanitation, and returns the sponge to its briny grave. There is no soap. There is no dignity. Just a communal basin that looks like it's trying to evolve into a new species of mold. He rinses his hands anyway, because pretending helps, outside the latrine. The sun has risen higher. Time to face the day. His stomach growls like an insulted mule. Breakfast awaits. And by breakfast, we mean bread so stale it can legally be classified as building material. Cassian steps back into the street, slightly lighter, slightly more ashamed, and 100% ready to chew a rock and call it food. In the next chapter, we join him on a journey to find breakfast in a city where meal is a generous word. Will he eat? Will he barter? Will he gnaw on despair with a side of salted disbelief? Stick around, brave Valentian. Bread, wine, and existential crumbs. It's not about being full. It's about surviving just enough to suffer through lunch. Welcome back, fellow wanderer of Valentian tragedy. Cassian's bladder is empty, his soul slightly hollowed, and now his stomach is staging a revolt. Before we dive into this glorious misery, take a second to subscribe, especially if you've ever had a breakfast that doubled as dental resistance training. Azo, what's the worst thing you've ever eaten on an empty stomach? Share it in the comments. Let's bond through digestive trauma. Cassian exits the Lavatorium Maximus with a haunted stare and a belly growling like a beast denied its ritual offering. It is early. Technically, the bells haven't rung yet, partly because Valentia's clock tower collapsed last year, and no one's agreed who's in charge of time anymore. So the morning begins not with chimes, but with yelling, vendors shouting about bread, olives, fish paste, questionable cheese, and breakfast wine, which is just last night's leftovers rebranded. Cassian's coin pouch contains exactly one chipped bronze, which might buy him a loaf, or at least a conversation about bread. He approaches Grando's stall, where loaves of Panamdura, a local bread known for doubling as self-defense, sit in neat, dusty rows. Grando. The seller is large, hairy, and known to have punched a thief with a baguette so stale it left permanent damage. Cassian. Morning. What does one bronze get me today? Grando grinning. A whiff. Cassian laughs politely. So does Grando. Then Grando doesn't move. It wasn't a joke. He settles instead for a half loaf from the yesterday basket bread baked sometime last week, wrapped in hope, priced for people who believe teeth are optional. In Velentia, breakfast is a formality, a civic ritual to remind the poor that hunger builds character and jaw strength. A proper meal by upper-class standards would involve warm barley cakes, imported goat cheese, honeyed fruit, and someone fanning you with eagle feathers. Cassian gets crusty bread and a sip of second-run wine. Basically wine that's been filtered through someone's standards. Then discarded, he takes his loot, if it can be called that, and finds his usual eating spot. The Fountain of Unclear Origin, a public stone structure that might once have honored a local hero or housed an exorcism. He sits on its cracked edge, breaks the loaf with effort, and begins chewing like a man biting into destiny made of limestone. Nearby, other Valentians gather for the same grim ritual. A fisherman soaking sardines in old tea, a young couple splitting a fig with surgical precision, a dog eating better than most citizens. Cassian watches the crowd, muttering softly, "At least I didn't have to sell my belt again." Mini-sketch, Valentian meal ratings app. Imagine if Velentia had a food review app called Snack. Cassian rates his breakfast. 1 star, bread caused existential flashbacks. Wine tasted like boiled socks. Would chew again if desperate, which I am. If you had to rate your worst meal like a dramatic food critic from ancient times, what would you write? Comment your 1-star culinary trauma with flair. Bonus points for medieval insults. Cassian finishes chewing just as a group of temple drummers march by, announcing the start of third light. A confusing religious time slot, somewhere between morning and I'm late. He sighs, stands, stretches, and pockets the final crumb like it might be useful later for bartering. Maybe, or dental work. It's time. The bread is gone, the wine is swished, and the workday looms like a tax collector with opinions. Cassian heads toward the labour market, the square of seeking, where men and women wait for someone to yell, I need your spine and bad decision-making skills for the coin. In Chapter 4, we follow him into the underpaid underworld of Valentian labour. Sweat, bricks, and broken tools handed down from relatives who were crushed by the same tools. Like what you've chewed through so far. Smash that like button like it's week-old bread you're trying to eat before it eats back. And don't go far. Chapter 4. Work. Because starving with pride is still starving is coming up next. Work. Because starving with pride is still starving. Valentia's job market, where your spine gets broken before your spirit. Welcome back, fellow survivalist. Cassian has braved the toilet, the breakfast, and now marches toward his least favorite deity, the god of unpaid labor, Hrundak the withholder, before we hand him a shovel made of splinters and hope. Hit that like button, especially if you've ever worked a job where you were paid in experience and possibly moldy cheese. Also, comment below, what's the weirdest job you've ever had? I'll go first. I once helped a goat therapy farm with PR. Yes, really? Cassian enters the Square of Seeking, also known as Hayami Hollow, the plaza of back pain, or unofficially, the waiting pit of existential cramp. It's where hundreds of laborers stand, sit, squat, or lean holding shovels, picks, bricks, or just the sheer force of hope. There's no formal system, no line, just whoever yells loudest and survives the stampede. Cassian's specialty, tile work, or horizontal rock discipline, as he likes to call it. Unfortunately, Valentia's roads are made of denial and gravel, so work is both in demand and constantly being undone by donkey traffic and low-grade earthquakes. A man in a faded orange sash arrives, puffing out his chest like a goose with a clipboard. This is Supervisor Krusk, known for three things: selective blindness, deep disdain for the working class, a mustache shaped like ambition gone wrong. Krusk yells, "I need 10 backs and 2 people who can fake knowing what a hammer is." Cassian raises his hand. He qualifies on both counts. He's selected, along with a woman named Lika, who once built an entire chicken coop with no nails, a guy called Turnip, who smells like regret and was banned from working with ladders, and a teenager carrying what looks like a ceremonial fork. They march off toward the site, the new aqueduct extension, also known as the Bridge to Nowhere, but with leaks. The job site is chaos. Tools are rusted. The scaffolding leans like it's whispering secrets to gravity. One worker is asleep inside a barrel. Another is arguing with a brick. Cassian is handed a tile shovel, which is just a regular shovel with tile written on it in charcoal. He is told to make the ground smooth, but not too smooth and don't wake the rats. He begins working under the sun, which burns like a judgmental uncle at a wedding. Dust clogs his throat. His sandals reclaimed from a skip pile give him splinters. He sweats. A lot. So much so that a bee mistakes him for a salt lick. By mid-morning, the crew has rebuilt 1 meter of aqueduct wall, unintentionally destroyed 2 meters of nearby fence, started 3 minor arguments, lost 1 guy they think he left, or possibly fell into a trench. Cassian presses on. His muscles ache, his hands blister, and his thoughts wander to the idea of becoming a priest, until he remembers the gods of Velentia pay worse than landlords. Cassian once tried to apply for official city rock arranger. The interview went, "Interviewer, do you have at least 5 years of experience with granite emotion management?" Cassian, "No, but I've yelled at boulders." Interviewer, "You're hired, but we can't pay you." Cassian, classic, "Let's hear it. What's your most ridiculous job interview moment? Bonus if it involved animals." Yelling, or being asked to volunteer for exposure. Back on site, Krusk arrives to inspect progress. He squints at the wall, kicks a bucket, nods, and proclaims, "Looks good enough for a senator's bathhouse." Then he leaves without paying anyone. The coins are promised tomorrow, which in Velentia is a unit of time roughly equal to never. Cassian sighs. His hands are sore. His stomach growls again. Not out of hunger this time, but betrayal. The bread is rebelling. He wipes sweat from his brow and turns to Lika, who's sharpening a stick ominously. She smiles. "Lunch soon." "We get a lunch break." "No." She shrugs. Just the illusion of one. As the sun climbs higher, so does the despair. Cassian's next mission: survive the Valentian lunch hour, where options include salted disappointment, cheese that screams, and maybe a half-rotten fig. Join us in Chapter 5, Lunch, or the art of negotiating with a sardine vendor who hates you. Did you enjoy that? Or at least mildly relate to the pain of unpaid labor? Smash that like button, like it's Krusk's face if he says tomorrow again. And don't forget to subscribe for Chapter 5, because even misery tastes better with commentary. Lunch, or the art of negotiating with a sardine vendor who hates you. Some cities break bread. Velentia breaks teeth. Still alive. That's impressive. Cassian has survived a morning of sweat, stone, and supervisors who use the word tomorrow like a shield. Now it's time for the next impossible quest. Lunch. Like and subscribe if you've ever bartered for food using charm, IOUs, or interpretive dance. Also, tell me in the comments, what's the weirdest thing you've eaten out of desperation? I once ate a chip that fell in a shoe. Not proud. The sun hovers over Velentia like a lazy eye, half blinking, fully judging, Cassian wipes cement dust from his face and steps off the job site with 3 objectives. Find food. Make it edible. Avoid former lover who now sells cursed pears. The lunch market at Crater's Edge, named after an unfortunate construction accident involving soup and dynamite, is already swarming. Vendors shout like gladiators. 3 sardines for the price of 2 and 1 suspicious look. Cheese that screams less than your ex-wife. Bigs, half fresh, mostly legal. Cassian spots his nemesis, Mafrinja, queen of the sardine cart, matriarch of passive-aggressive pricing. Cassian, Frinja. My stomach sent me. Frinja without looking up. Tell it I'm closed. Cassian, you're literally holding a sardine. Frinja, that's not a sardine. That's emotional leverage. Cassian offers his remaining bronze sliver and a half-rotted radish from his pouch. She sighs, takes the radish, and hands him a wrapped sardine that blinks once before going still. You didn't get this from me. I wish I hadn't. Lunch in Velentia is not about taste. It's about survival, speed, and not asking questions. Some popular options include salt brick surprise, mostly salt, very little surprise. Cabbage on a stick, impaled pride with wilted leaves. Meatballs, ingredient list missing, possibly on purpose. Cassian finds a seat near the cursed fountain, closed for repairs since Year of the Ferret, and opens his fish parcel. A nearby dog looks on with respect, or pity, probably both. He chews, slowly. The sardine tastes like someone whispered ocean into a pile of gravel. A man sits beside him, Turnip, the ladder-bound labourer from earlier. Turnip offers him a bite of something that may have once been a plum. Cassian declines, his stomach's brave, not suicidal. Imagine a Valentian food show. Dine and regret, with host Barkus the Gassy. Today we're sampling Marfrinja's sardine surprise, and the surprise is intestinal distress. I rate it 2 groans out of 5. Let's pretend you're a food critic in a crumbling empire. Describe your worst meal in 3 poetic words. Mean, gritty, greasy, betrayed. Your turn. Let the suffering flow in the comments. Cassian finishes the fish and downs the rest of his second-run wine. He doesn't feel full, but he does feel less conscious. Across the street, Lika waves him down. Work resumes soon. Lunch break in Velentia is not measured in minutes. It's measured in how long it takes your foreman to finish complaining about his knees. As Cassian rises, he mutters to himself, one day I'll own a chair, a real one, with a back. A passing child hears him and whispers, dream smaller. He rejoins the labour crew, prepared for a long afternoon of sweat, cursing, and accidental hernias. But he doesn't know yet. Something waits at the job site. Not payment. Don't be ridiculous. Danger. Or bureaucracy. Possibly both. In Chapter 6, Bricks, Bruises, and Bureaucrats, the crew meets an inspector. He has a clipboard, and ambitions, and a deep love for regulations that make no sense. Feeling full of feelings. Hit that like button like you're swatting a fishy bribe off your tunic. And subscribe so you don't miss Chapter 6, where construction meets confusion, and someone finally misuses the word load-bearing. Bricks, bruises, and bureaucrats. It wasn't the falling scaffolding that broke him. It was the paperwork. Welcome back, brave watcher of bureaucratic misery. If you've ever lost hours of your life to a confused supervisor, a malfunctioning clipboard, or a stamp-wielding sadist, this chapter is for you. Click like if you've ever needed 6 approvals to sneeze. And tell me in the comments, what's the most absurd rule you've ever followed at work? Hint. Mine involved socks. On fruit. Cassian returns to the work site with a stomach full of sardine and suspicion. The sun has shifted from mildly vengeful to actively boiling, and the wall they were building this morning has, in their absence, collapsed, possibly from wind, more likely from craftsmanship. Supervisor Krusk stands over the rubble, hands on hips, eyes squinting at nothing in particular. Cassian joins the crew Lika, Ternip, and now a newcomer named Bormo, a carpenter with a limp and a deep mistrust of nails. Just as Krusk opens his mouth to blame gravity for poor planning, a horn sounds from the street. A figure arrives, robes clean, sandals polished. Expression carved from smug marble. Enter. Inspector Grelm of the Bureau of Constructional Conformance and Minor Elevations. Yes, that's the full title. And yes, he insists you say it out loud. He holds a clipboard made of waxed cedar, carries 2 quills, and wears a badge shaped like a compass that points only to paperwork. Grelm without greeting. Who approved this slope? Krusk, sweating. Gravity. Grelm. Incorrect. Form 72G must accompany any incline exceeding 17 pebbles per pike. He walks to the rubble and pokes it with a stick. A small section crumbles further. Grelm nods solemnly. Non-conforming collapse. That's a 13A violation. Cassian turns to Lika. What's a 13A? Lika. A warning. Next one's a fine. The third is usually public shaming or conscription into the choir of civic correction. Mini detail, the bureaucracy of Velentia. In Velentia, all construction is monitored by the Council of Upholding Things Cut, under it. Several departments exist: Office of Measurement and Vague Disappointment, Committee on Non-Euclidean Angles, Bureau of Brick Emotion Regulation. No one knows what they do, only that they appear when you least expect and always demand signatures. Grelm begins scribbling. Dust floats in the air like legal fallout. Krusk tries to distract him with flattery. Turnip offers him a plum. Bormo starts building a fake wall out of dust and optimism. Cassian tries to look invisible. It does not work. Grelm, you there, tunic with despair. Where's your permit for that shovel? Cassian, it's implied. Grelm, implied permits are valid only in District 4-1-2 under the Wet Brick Exemption Act. Cassian, I live in a closet. Does that count? Grelm, only if it's a sanctioned closet. Grelm flips open a scroll labelled Standard Construction Compliance Permits. It includes F-17B, lifting anything above knee level. RHAT, breathing in dust without complaint. Cansofores, falling without causing distress to nearby bystanders. Cassian realizes he has none of them. Grelm sighs. You all lack Form W19. That's the we're trying form. The crew shrugs in unison. Grelm produces a new scroll. Censure notice. Mild to moderate incompetence. He stamps it with flair. The ink hisses like it disapproves of existing. Then, dramatically, he turns on his heel, trips over a rock, nearly falls into the trench, and says, "You'll be hearing from the Bureau." He disappears down the road, robes flapping like bureaucratic wings. Okay, be honest. What's the most ridiculous rule you've ever encountered in real life? Work. School. Parking lots hit me with your favorite example of unnecessary red tape. Mine. Do not operate the printer if emotionally unstable. The crew is silent. Krusk, red-faced, declares, back to work. And this time, make the wall stand like it believes in itself. Cassian picks up his shovel. Lika mutters, "You ever think about leaving the city?" Cassian replies, "Sometimes, then I remember the outside world doesn't have sponge inspectors either." The day drags on. Bricks are laid. Backs are strained. Regulations are ignored creatively. But as the sun dips and shadows stretch, the true enemy appears not paperwork, not walls, but Velentia at night. In Chapter 7, Nightfall, where light ends and screaming begins, Cassian will brave the streets, dodge drunks, and try to sleep through noise that could wake the dead, and often does. Like this chapter, or at least enjoyed watching someone suffer under the weight of imaginary bureaucracy. Click that like button like it's a cursed permit, and subscribe so you don't miss Chapter 7 because in Velentia, the night isn't dark and full of terrors. It's loud, drunk, and wearing a toga, Nightfall, where light ends and screaming begins. If Velentia had a lullaby, it would be sung by drunks and end with sirens. Still with us, you're brave or bored. Either way, welcome to the night in Velentia, where streets become obstacle courses, shadows whisper petty crimes, and silence is outlawed by decree. Hit like if you've ever tried to sleep through a party you weren't invited to, and comment, what's the weirdest thing you've ever heard at 2A? I once heard a cat yell no. In perfect human pitch, Cassian leaves the worksite covered in mortar dust, sunburn, and a growing sense of existential slouch. He carries no coin, no bread, and just enough willpower to get home alive or mostly alive. But Velentia after dark, that's another beast entirely. By day, the streets are chaotic. By night, they're a symphony of the unhinged. As the sun dips, torches flicker to life along crooked alleyways, except half of them are out, stolen, or replaced with candles stuck in fish bones. Light here is a suggestion, not a standard. The Vigiles Nocturni, the so-called night watchmen, are theoretically patrolling. In practice, they're asleep, gambling, or arguing about whether owls are a conspiracy. Cassian avoids them. They tend to ask questions like, "Is that your sandal? Can you prove you didn't commit a crime tomorrow? Do you want to be temporarily arrested? Just in case." As he walks, he passes. A man arguing with a statue over a debt. A bard singing a tragic song called "My Goat Left Me" for another farmer. A child selling glowing beetles in jars. One escapes and lights a haystack on fire. There are sounds, the sounds, drums, screaming. singing, a donkey whinnying in perfect harmony with a man throwing up. Somewhere in the distance, laughter, followed by breaking pottery, followed by legal advice yelled from a window. Cassian's path home takes him through Squalor Row, then over Bridge of Regret, and finally down the alley called Shriek Lane, named, of course, for the local opera practice sessions and/or ghosts. He walks faster. A woman bumps into him and yells, "Don't look at my carrots." Cassian. I wasn't too late. Now they're cursed. The carrots hiss. He walks faster. Mini-sketch. Valentian nighttime tips, Cassian's guide. Don't wear jewelry. Even if it's made of pasta, don't engage in philosophical debates with street preachers unless you have 2 hours and a lawyer. If you see a rat wearing shoes, run. It has friends. If a man offers midnight stew, it's probably just soup with opinions. Cassian finally reaches his insula, the 4-story apartment complex made of plaster. Broken promises and sheer stubbornness. The front door is stuck. He kicks it. The building groans. That's normal. He climbs the stairs, each one squeaking like it's trying to confess a crime. On the 3rd floor, a neighbor is sobbing loudly while playing the flute. On the 4th, someone is cooking mystery stew, which smells like betrayal. Cassian's room is still intact. Barely. The stone walls are damp, the air thick with mildew and moth ambition. His mattress of straw and sorrow welcomes him back like a disappointed relative. He lies down. He exhales. Bang! Someone in the alley is throwing amphorae and yelling, "You said the lentils were ripe." He tries again, breathes deep, shuts his eyes. Whine, bark. 2 dogs are fighting over a sandal. It might be his. He gets up, closes the shutter, which falls off. He lies back down, from above. Sing with me. Glom. A pan hits the floor. Someone yodels. Cassian opens his eyes to the ceiling and whispers, "One day, just one day, a room, a door, and silence." From outside, the gods reply with a trumpet solo performed badly but confidently. Tell me, what's the most ridiculous thing that's ever kept you from sleeping? Was it loud neighbors? A haunted kettle? A raccoon trying to break into your car? Let's form a sleepless support group in the comments. Finally, at some hour that may or may not legally be night, Cassian drifts into something that vaguely resembles sleep. In Velentia, that's a victory. Tomorrow will be just like today. Dirty, loud, and ridiculous. But for now, he dreams of chairs with backs and toilets with walls. In Chapter 8, wake, Asher, repeat, another day in almost Rome. The rooster will scream too early. The neighbor will argue with his cat again, and Cassian will face a new kind of misery. Festival day, yes, festival of dust and loudness is coming, and no one gets to opt out. Smash that like button like it's the neighbor's flute you've mentally destroyed every night for a year. And subscribe to join us in Chapter 8, because in Velentia, the calendar doesn't bring joy. It brings obligations in costume. Wake, Ashi. Repeat, another day in almost Rome. When the sun rises over Velentia, so do your regrets. You've had bad mornings. We all have, but have you ever been woken up by a man yelling about ceremonial turnips while a goat in a hat knocks on your window with a stick? Welcome to Valentia's most dreaded tradition, the annual festival of dust and loudness. Hit like if you've ever been forced to party against your will. Comment below. What's the weirdest public holiday or festival you've ever witnessed or survived? 1. The wake-up call. Screamed at volume 11. Cassian was dreaming of silence sweet. Absolute silence when the drums began. Boom, boom, bang, bang, bang. It wasn't rhythm. It was warning. He jolts up, eyes crusted, neck aching, hair matted from sweat and straw lice. Through the cracked window hole, he sees colours. Too many colours. Flags, smoke, fire, and what appears to be someone juggling eels. He groans. He swears. He steps into his sandals and immediately regrets it. One is wet. The other is on fire. Somehow, welcome to festival morning. Ichidao, the official announcement pinned to his door. Someone, probably the city, has nailed a scroll to his door. Not slid, not tucked nailed. It reads, Citizen Cassian Flavius, or whoever is currently living in room 412, you are hereby reminded of your mandatory participation in the 489th Festival of Dust and Loudness. Failure to appear may result in public mocking, temporary marriage to a festival mascot, revocation of your right to complain about things. Below that, in smudged ink, today's theme, joy or else. 3. Dressing for misery. Cassian opens his closet, a single hook next to a cracked wall, and pulls out what passes for a festive outfit. A faded tunic with stitched-on bells, a scarf that smells like pickled goat, and a paper crown from last year. As he steps outside, he's nearly run over by a group of dancers rehearsing the spin of enthusiastic confusion, a traditional Velentian dance involving fast twirls and yelling contradictory statements like, "I love the noise," and "bring back the monarchy," or the festivities begin whether you like it or not. The streets are a riot of activity. Literally, someone's chanting "down with tradition" while holding a sign that says "I tradition." Vendors sell deep-fried olives on sticks, festival stew made from 7 types of regret, scented air in jars for introverts. Children are launching small paper effigies into the air. Some explode, others just yell insults. Cassian spots Lika, wearing a bright red cloak and a wooden spoon strapped to her back. "You get assigned a role," he asks. "Yep, I'm the ceremonial stirrer of soup no one wants." Sounds about right. 5. Assigned duties, of course. Out of nowhere, a city clerk appears holding a scroll and a chicken. "Citizen Cassian." "Depends on the chicken. You've been selected to carry the sacred banner of questionable glory in the procession of obligatory joy." "Is there a form to decline?" "Yes, but it requires 12 witnesses and a goat sacrifice. The deadline was yesterday." And just like that, he's handed a long wooden pole wrapped in fading ribbons, with a silver medallion at the top that reads, "Yay!" 6. The parade of participation. Cassian lines up behind a man in a cabbage costume, a group of enthusiastic monks chanting in D minor, and a horse wearing glitter. The parade begins. Crowds cheer. Music blares. Confetti is thrown, and somehow it's sticky. The banner is heavier than it looks. Cassian adjusts his grip, stepping over puddles of melted cheese and whatever used to be a mime. An old woman throws a pie at a senator. The senator ducks. Cassian does not. He now smells like garlic and shame. 7. The joyful ceremonies. The parade stops at the central square, where the mayor of Velentia, dressed in ceremonial pajamas, declares, "Let this day be filled with shouting, unnecessary flame, and dancing that makes people uncomfortable." Everyone cheers. Cassian squints at the stage. A group begins the ritual of the wobbling torches, a dance involving fire, blindfolds, and insurance disclaimers. He tries to sneak away. A child in face paint hisses. The city sees you. He gives up. Hoshi. A brief rest, not really. At last, he collapses near a fountain, sharing a stone bench with a man covered in feathers and a woman playing a potato like a flute. He sips from a cup labeled festival wine. It tastes like vinegar and minor betrayal. Then a city official appears with a clipboard and says, "You've been registered for tonight's midnight games." Is there a mistake? Only if you survive. Good luck. Night. Foreshadowing the night to come. The sun is setting. Drums are rising. Somewhere, a group is rehearsing for the scream chorus. Cassian leans back, closes his eyes, and mutters, "Maybe tomorrow will be normal." A man next to him laughs and says, "Tomorrow's the day of the pudding duel." Cassian groans. If you've ever been forced to enjoy yourself by people with clipboards and flags, you know how Cassian feels. Tell me, what's the worst festival disaster you've lived through or barely escaped? Subscribe to see how Cassian handles the midnight games in Chapter 9. Run, solve, or suffer. And if you laughed, tap, like it's ceremonial duty. The midnight games. Run, solve, or suffer. No one really wins. Some just lose with style. If you thought the festival was loud, chaotic, and confusing, just wait, because when the sun goes down in Velentia, the rules change, the lights dim, and the city's strangest tradition kicks in. The midnight games. Think ancient Roman obstacle course, crossed with trivia night, and spiced up with mild public humiliation. Smash. Like if you've ever been dragged into a competition you didn't sign up for, and comment. What's the weirdest game you've seen people play in public? 1. When night isn't quiet. Cassian had hoped the chaos would end with the sunset. He was wrong. At precisely midnight, trumpets blared. Not the kind played with finesse. These sounded like someone stepped on a goose and encouraged it to scream in key. From rooftops, voices rang out. Let the games begin. Lanterns ignited. The crowd surged toward the forum of awkward declarations. Banners fluttered. A mime exploded accidentally. We think, too, what are the midnight games? No one really knows when the tradition began. Some say it was a way to settle late-night arguments without actual violence. Others believe a drunken council accidentally invented it while arguing about whose pet lizard was fastest. But now, it's official and terrifying. Each year, citizens are randomly volunteered to compete in a series of 3 challenges, all designed by the city's Committee for Entertainment and Occasional Injuries. The rewards: a clay trophy, a week's exemption from street sweeping, and possibly respect, but mostly the trophy. 3. Cassian is registered. Cassian had tried to hide behind a fountain, under a pie stall. Once, briefly, under a goat. It didn't work. He is called to the stage. The master of games, a tall, suspiciously muscular man in a mask shaped like a smiling owl, booms. Cassian Flavius, of the 4th Insula, you have been selected. Do you accept your fate? Do I have a choice? No. Fine. The crowd cheers. Or maybe boos. It's hard to tell. Someone throws a turnip. It's symbolic. Probably 4. Challenge 1. The Riddle Run. Cassian and 2 other contestants, an ex-philosophy student and a guy named Twigs, are handed scrolls. They must solve a riddle to unlock the next gate. But the gate is also moving, because it's mounted on a cart, being pulled by overly enthusiastic donkeys. The riddle: I walk on 4 legs in the morning, 2 at noon, and 3 at night. I also collect taxes. What am I? The philosophy student begins a long monologue about metaphors and existential dread. Cassian mutters. A bureaucrat. The gate swings open. He sprints ahead, while Twigs gets tangled in a tapestry labelled Clarity. 5. Challenge 2. The Ladder of Lies. A massive wooden structure stands in the centre of the plaza. It's covered in signs. Only one path leads to the top. The rest are fake. Each step is labelled with a truth or a lie. Step on the wrong one, it collapses, or shocks you, or triggers a pigeon attack. Cassian reads his first step. The mayor was once a respected general. He snorts. Lie. Safe. Next one. Velentia's water is pure. Cassian steps left. A pigeon screeches. He swears and jumps to a platform marked, turnips are technically fruit. Safe. Somehow, by sheer guesswork and luck, he reaches the top only to find the philosopher still discussing the first riddle with an audience of 5 confused elderly women. 6. Challenge 3. The Choice of Doom. At the final arena, 3 objects rest on pedestals. A loaf of bread, a tiny bronze key, a sealed scroll. The task: choose one. The right item opens the gate to victory. The others, surprises. Cassian eyes the key, too obvious. The scroll could be a trap. He grabs the bread. The announcer gasps. Cassian bites it. It's stale. Inside, a small note that reads, "Congratulations, you chose hunger." But also, wisdom. Proceed. The gate opens. He stumbles through, dizzy, bleeding pride and breadcrumbs. 7. And the winner is... Cassian collapses on the finish platform. The masked host raises one arm. Victor Cassian Flavius, winner of the Midnight Games, bearer of the stale loaf, and temporary lord of mild effort. The crowd cheers wildly. Someone throws a fish in his honor. He accepts it with confusion. He is handed a trophy shaped like a shrug. A bard appears to write a song about him. It immediately turns into a limerick that rhymes Cassian with sass again. Dawn again. Somehow, the games end. The fires dim. The crowd drifts home, some singing, others asleep where they stood. Cassian stumbles back to his insula. Lika greets him at the stairs. You survived. Did I? You smell like bread in poor judgment. Exactly. He enters his room, collapses. This time, sleep comes fast. No roosters, no screaming, just silence. Brief, beautiful, fragile. Would you survive the Midnight Games? Let me know. Which challenge would destroy you first? Riddles, lies, or picking between bread and scrolls? Tap like if you've ever faced an absurd challenge with no prep and too many spectators. Subscribe if you want to join Cassian as he navigates the next horror in Chapter 10. Morning after. The hangover of celebration. Spoiler, there's soup involved. It's not comforting. Morning after. The hangover of celebration. Victory is fleeting. Nausea, less so. You made it through the noise. Fire, riddles, and pigeons. You won a competition you didn't enter. Became a minor legend. And earned stale bread. Now it's morning again. Which, in Velentia, means one thing. Celebration debrief, aka mandatory parades, lukewarm soup, and city officials pretending they remember your name. Smash that like button if you've ever woken up a hero and felt like a tragedy. Come on. What's the worst reward you've ever received for doing something amazing? Bonus points if it involves soup. 1. Awakening. Again. Cassian wakes up face down, drooling into his own victory scroll. His entire body hurts. His eyes refuse to open fully. His mouth tastes like celebratory ash and existential dread. Someone's knocking at the door. Cassian Flavius. No. You've been summoned for the laurels of mild triumph ceremony. Still no, but the knock continues, as does the guilt, and the smell of soup wafting up from the street. 2. Dressing like a champion or a victim, Cassian puts on his formal tunic still covered in confetti, and one shoe print not his. He finds his victory medallion under the bed, wrapped around a spoon as he steps outside. The street is filled with the post-festival fallout. A musician asleep in a barrel. 2 goats wearing medals. A bard writing a ballad that rhymes hero with blistered toe. Velentia doesn't rest. It merely pauses between disasters. 3. The soup banquet. Cassian arrives at the plaza of delayed recognition. A long table is set up. On it, bowls of champion stew, the official breakfast of regret. It contains lentils. More lentils. A suspicious grey lump referred to only as the surprise. Cassian sits beside Lika, who's wearing sunglasses made from clamshells. How's your stomach? Negotiating a truce. You've got fans now. I have indigestion. Around them, small groups whisper and point. Someone sketches his profile. Another offers him pickled cabbage in exchange for wisdom. Cassian declines both, politely. 4. Flashbacks and realizations. He remembers the games, the crowd, the owl mask, the pigeon attack. He also remembers laughter, cheers, applause. That night, for a moment, he wasn't invisible. And now, he's being approached by a city official in purple boots. Lines. Administrative consequences. The official speaks quickly. As winner, you are hereby entered into the Register of Civic Inspiration. You may now cut in line at public wells twice monthly, decline 1 tax payment annually, with Form 48G, have your name shouted by children during parades. Cassian blinks. Do I get money? Of course not. Do I have to attend more things? Almost constantly. A trumpet sounds. A scroll is presented. A man in a golden mask whispers legacy and gives him a commemorative spoon. 6. The minstrels arrive. 3 bards appear. One strums a lute. Another shakes maracas. The third sings, "Ooh." Oh, brave young Cassian. He ran and he fell. He solved riddles faster than wise men could spell. With stale bread in hand and victory in gut. He won the great games with sarcasm and smut. Cassian. Did you just rhyme gut with smut? Bard. It tested well with the youth. They continue. A crowd gathers. A goat headbutts the drummer. The audience claps. Cassian wishes he could vanish into a storm drain. 7. Public honor. Private headache. By mid-morning, he's marched to the Temple of Public Admiration for the final ceremony. He's given a sash labeled Local Inspiration misspelled. A key to something, no one knows what. A standing ovation from the Council of Elderly Reluctance. The mayor appears. Cassian braces himself. Citizens, this man represents Valentian excellence. Reluctant, resistant, and slightly damp. Let us honor him by naming a city bench in his likeness. The crowd cheers. Someone yells, "Let him sit on it first." Alt, fading fame. By afternoon, the crowd's thin. The praise turns into nods. The children forget his name. A bard starts singing about a new hero, someone who tamed a feral turnip. Cassian returns to his insula. No parade, no soup, no scrolls, just his straw mat, and a silence so deep he almost weeps. Lika passes his door and tosses him a note. Well played. Tomorrow, back to lifting bricks and sewage duty. He smiles. Grimly, victory is temporary. Sleep is sacred. Soup is confusing. Would you trade your anonymity for a single day of glory? Bad songs and a surprise stew. Comment your answer. Tap like if you've ever had a moment of fame that turned out weird. Subscribe to see what happens in Chapter 11. A favor owed when the patron calls. Spoiler, Cassian made a deal he forgot. The city didn't. A favor owed when the patron calls. You can ignore a debt, but in Velentia, the debt remembers you. Cassian was just starting to enjoy a rare luxury in Velentia. Complete irrelevance. After the midnight games, after the soup, the song, the sash he was hoping to slip back into anonymity. But no, because in Velentia, the moment you stand out, someone important will remember that you owe them something, and that someone just knocked on his door. Like if you've ever owed a favor you forgot about. Come on, what's the strangest job someone's ever asked you to do as a favor? The knock that meant trouble. The knock was not aggressive. It was soft, calculated. The kind of knock that said, "We know you're home. We're giving you the illusion of choice." Cassian opened the door. There stood Lord Aelius Vaughan, dressed in all black silk robes trimmed with gold thread and subtle menace. Cassian, you look alive. Just barely. Can I help you? Yes, that's why I'm here. 2. The patron's memory. Cassian had almost forgotten. Months ago, during a rainy market brawl, he'd accidentally saved Vaughn's prized hawk from falling into a vat of pickled onions. In return, Vaughn said, "You'll be rewarded. But first, you'll owe me one." He thought it was ceremonial. Like most things in Velentia, it was not. "The time has come," Vaughn said, stroking a cane shaped like a screaming lion. "I need someone discreet, capable, disposable." That last one feels pointed. Correctly so. 3. The task. Vaughn handed Cassian a rolled-up parchment, sealed in wax with his sigil a weeping sun. "There is a box, in the subarchivum. You will retrieve it?" Sounds simple. Nothing in the subarchivum is simple or safe. Cassian unrolled the map. It showed winding tunnels, trap markings, and a label that read, "Things that were better left unfound." Vaughn continued, "You'll go tonight. No questions, no noise. And if you're caught, I will deny everything, even knowing your name. You already do." Precisely. 4. Into the depths. The subarchivum lay beneath the Hall of Forgotten Laws, a mostly abandoned building where bureaucrats sent paperwork to die. At midnight, Cassian slipped through a side entrance. The hall smelled like wet parchment and quiet panic. He descended the spiral stairs 50, 60, 70 steps until light faded, and only the flicker of his oil lamp remained. Beneath the city, silence had weight, the kind that pressed on your ears and made you wonder if you'd ever hear laughter again. 5. Things that guard the past. Velentia didn't just store history, it defended it. Cassian crept past, a stone golem reciting legal codes to itself, a sleeping clerk surrounded by cobwebs and glowing rats, a room filled with cursed scrolls whispering in dead languages. Finally, he reached a door labeled, "Do not enter unless you've already regretted it." He pushed it open. Inside, a pedestal, a single obsidian box, and something else, breathing. 6. The Watcher. In the corner of the room stood a figure. No face, no feet, a swirling shadow in the shape of someone trying to remember who they once were. It spoke not with a voice, but with a thought. "Who claims the box of memories denied?" Cassian, without thinking, said, "I'm just returning it to someone who forgot to forget." The silence that followed felt like judgment, but the figure nodded, slowly, then vanished. The box pulsed with heat as he picked it up, like a heartbeat, or something pretending to have one. 7. The escape. As soon as the box left the pedestal, every hallway behind him shifted. Walls turned, stairs moved, lights dimmed. The subarchivum wasn't just storage, it was alive, or at least heavily enchanted by someone with trust issues and a flair for drama. Cassian ran. He dodged a collapsing ceiling, skidded past an enchanted bookshelf that tried to alphabetize his organs, ducked under a scroll labeled curses, petty and catastrophic. Finally, panting and bruised, he burst through the surface door. The moon looked down in quiet disapproval. Alt. The delivery. At dawn, Cassian stood outside Lord Vaughn's estate. Vaughn took the box with gloves, placed it on a velvet cushion, and nodded. "You have my gratitude. And my trauma. Fair trade." He handed Cassian a small token round. Gold, and inscribed with ancient Valentian text. "Show this to anyone who tries to make your life harder. It won't stop them, but it will confuse them enough to give you a head start." 9. The aftermath. Cassian returned home, dirty, exhausted, and slightly vibrating from stress. He placed the token on his windowsill. He looked out at the city still asleep. Still ridiculous. Lika passed by, holding 2 mugs. "You look like you broke into a temple full of angry furniture." Close. Von T, only if it's not enchanted. No promises. Ever done a favor that turned into a dungeon crawl? Comment your worst simple request story. Like if you've ever accepted a favor out of politeness and nearly died for it. And subscribe. Because in Chapter 12, the tax collector's secret. Someone wants Cassian's token, and they're not interested in saying please. The tax collector's secret, a debt older than coins. In Velentia, you don't pay taxes. You survive them. Remember that token Cassian got for risking his life in an underground archive full of whispering scrolls and existential regret? Well, someone else remembers it too. And they've come to collect not the token, but the history behind it. Like if you've ever been tracked down for something you didn't even know was valuable. Come on. What's the weirdest object you've ever accidentally owed your life to? 1. A knock. Again, Cassian was beginning to suspect that nothing good started with someone knocking on his door. This time, it wasn't a city official, bard, or noble. It was worse. The man at his door wore a grey robe. His sandals were polished. His scroll case gleamed. He smiled like a blade. "Greetings, Citizen Flavius. I represent the Department of Fiscal Integrity and Historic Recovery." That's a lot of words. "We prefer tax office." 2. The token problem. The taxman's name was Silas Quen. He handed Cassian a parchment, folded and sealed with black wax. "This is not a bill. Not yet. It's an inquiry." "Into what?" "Into this." He pointed at the golden token on Cassian's table. "You were given this by Lord Aelius Vaughan." "Yes." "As a reward." "Incorrect. That token is not a reward. It's a promissory relic. You now hold a fragment of a debt that dates back to the founding fires." Cassian blinked. "You're telling me I owe the government because I was given a coin?" "Not owe. Entangled." 3. A debt buried in time. Silas unrolled a map. Not of the city, but of Velentia's original design, a lost grid of symbols and sacrificial wells. "Long ago, our founders struck a pact with the gods of commerce. In return for prosperity, the city issued a handful of tokens, bound by oath and blood." "That seems excessive." "Yes, but effective. The relic Cassian now owned was tied to a forgotten treasury, rumored to hold not gold, but ledgers that rewrite themselves, and someone or something wanted it reopened." 4. The Vault of Adjusted Truths. Silas led Cassian to the old tax vault, deep beneath the Bureau of Regretful Accounting. The door had no keyhole, just a slot shaped exactly like the token. "Once inserted," Silas warned, "the door opens, but it will ask questions. If you lie, it closes on your arms or neck." Cassian hesitated. "What's inside?" "Secrets, forgotten debts, unspent curses." Cassian inserted the token. The door sighed, then whispered, "Who do you owe?" "Everyone. I live in Velentia." "Correct." The door opened. Fine. Inside the vault, stacks of scrolls lined the chamber. Some moved, some glared. Cassian approached a pedestal in the center. There sat a single book, unlabeled. He opened it and saw his name. Hundreds of entries, favors, meals owed, stolen ideas, forgotten promises. It was a record of everything he'd ever failed to repay. Silas raised an eyebrow. "Now do you understand why we exist?" Cassian closed the book. "I understand why I have anxiety." 6. A decision must be made. Silas offered a choice. Destroy the token and the vault seals forever. You return to obscurity, and if I don't, you become a warden, one who remembers forgotten debts, one who ensures others do not forget. Cassian thought about it. He thought about bards, parades, pigeons, scrolls, and soup. "Do I get paid?" "You get respected." "Not the same, true, but you get to make others uncomfortable with subtle truths." Cassian smiled. "Where do I sign?" "Zephyr. Exit is something else." Cassian walked out of the vault with a cloak. Not silk, not regal, but functional in it. He carried the Book of Debts, a quill that wrote what you meant, not what you said. And the token, now cold and quiet. Silas nodded. "Welcome to the Quiet Order. You'll be summoned when the city forgets what it promised." Cassian nodded back. "Guess I'm part of the system now." "You always were. Now you just know it." 8. Alone again, sort of. That night, Cassian returned home. No one cheered. No one sang. But Lika passed him at the stairwell. "What's with the cloak? Got a new side gig. Does it involve curses?" "Only emotional ones." She raised a cup. "To secret jobs and unpaid lunches. And to remembering what no one else will." They drank. Far above, a new star blinked on the city's celestial ledger. It would blink again when the next debt awakened. Have you ever carried the emotional version of that vault? What's a debt you never repaid, but never forgot? Share your story. Tap like if this chapter hit a little too close to home, and subscribe to join Cassian in Chapter 13, The Whisper Market, where memory is currency. Because sometimes, to repay what you owe, you have to forget something else first. The Whisper Market, where memory is currency. Sometimes, to pay your debts, you must forget who you are. Cassian thought the worst was behind him. He'd survived a sewer job, public games, mysterious tokens, and an ancient vault filled with economic regret. Now he wore a cloak and carried a book full of other people's mistakes. He had no idea his next task would involve the most unstable currency in all Velentia. Memory. Comment? If you had to trade one memory for freedom, which would it be? Like if you've ever wished you could pawn a painful moment and walk away lighter. The invitation. 3 days passed since Cassian joined the Quiet Order. He spent them organizing debts, translating curses, and trying to drink tea without the scrolls hissing at him. Then a message came. The Whisper Market opens tonight, midnight. Follow the runner without speaking. Bring nothing but what you remember. Below it, the mark of the Memoriam Guild, a sigil shaped like an eye made of smoke. Cassian sighed. Of course it's midnight. It's always midnight. 2. Descent into fog. He followed the silent runner, a child with a bird mask, through twisting alleys, across bridges, under dripping aqueducts, and finally down a staircase behind a bakery that no longer sold bread. The staircase spiraled downward. The walls grew damp, then warm, then oddly cold. At the bottom, a gate pulsed. No bars, no hinges, just liquid shadow. Cassian stepped through. 3. What is the Whisper Market? Imagine a bazaar built by fever dreams and forgotten wishes. The Whisper Market was a cavernous warren of glowing stalls and veiled figures. Candles floated mid-air, signs flickered between languages, music played in reverse. But the only currency here, memory. Vendors called out, trade your heartbreak for a fighting stance. One embarrassing childhood moment for a night of perfect sleep. Who wants to forget their ex and learn poison brewing? 4. The rules of trade. Cassian was handed a slip of silver parchment. It read, each memory offered will be weighed. Personal truth earns more than public trivia. You may not buy back what you forget. All trades are final. He tucked it into his sleeve and wandered deeper. He saw a man weeping after trading away the memory of his daughter's laughter. A noblewoman laughing after forgetting how her husband betrayed her. A child giving up her name to become invisible. Cassian shivered. This place was beautiful and horrifying. 5. The broker of silence. At the heart of the market stood a tent shaped like a turning page. Inside, a hunched figure, a robe of stitched letters. No eyes, just ears, hundreds of them, sewn into the fabric. Cassian Flavius, the broker whispered. Though Cassian hadn't spoken, you carry the debts of others, but yours are louder. I'm not here to trade. That's what they all say. The broker gestured. A mirror appeared. In it, Cassian's first heartbreak, a girl named Rhea, laughing as she walked away during the festival of false promises. This pain holds value. What would you take in return? Cassian paused. I want to understand people better, to read intent. Done. The broker reached through the mirror, pulled out the moment, folded it like paper, and placed it in a jar. A single tear rolled down Cassian's cheek. Why does it still hurt? Because real trades always cost something. 6. The unexpected buyer. As Cassian left the tent, a man approached. Tall, pale, familiar. You traded. I saw it. Who are you? Someone who knows your pain has power. He wore no sigil, but his eyes flickered like candlelight over water. I represent those who believe memory should never be currency, that forgetting makes us weak. Would you like to remember what you've already lost? No, I just started forgetting on purpose. The man handed him a coin. On it, a reversed image of Cassian's face. Use this when you're ready to break the system. Then he vanished into smoke. Seba. Ledger update. Cassian returned home before sunrise. He opened the debt book. To his surprise, a new entry had been added. Flavius. C. Gave away. First heartbreak. Gained. Emotional clarity. Limited intuition. Status. Voluntary exchange. Balance. Unstable. He stared. The book was keeping track of him now. Lika poked her head in. You look haunted. Just came from a market. Did it sell pants? Only soul fragments. So, no pants. Got it. Eat. Closing the day. Cassian sat on the rooftop, watching Velentia breathe under the clouds. He felt lighter. Not happy, not whole, but aware. He reached into his sleeve. The reverse coin gleamed. Would he use it? Would he dare remember what he'd buried? Or worse, what others wanted him to remember? Would you sell a piece of your past to gain control over your future? What would be your price? Tell me, what's a memory you'd trade away? And what would you want in return? Like if you've ever felt the strange relief of forgetting, subscribe to join Cassian in Chapter 14. Echoes of the Forgotten, the Memory Rebels. Because not everyone in Velentia agrees that memory should be bought or sold. The Memory Rebels. What was buried will rise. The past is not dead. It's just waiting for the right moment to scream. Cassian thought he'd made a quiet trade. One memory, one skill, one step toward clarity. But in Velentia, even silence echoes, especially when it's tied to forbidden markets and coins with your face carved backwards. This chapter, it's not about forgetting. It's about the people who refuse to. Comment? If someone tried to make you forget something you cared about, How far would you go to fight back? Like if you've ever realized remembering hurts, but forgetting hurts worse. 1. An unmarked letter. 2 mornings after his Whisper Market visit, Cassian found a sealed envelope at his windowsill. No signature, no wax seal, just a symbol drawn in ash, an eye with a crack through it. Inside, a note written in looping, perfect script. You've entered the economy of memory. But do you know who designed the system? We are the ones who remember. Meet us at the echo chamber. Midnight. Come alone. Bring the coin. Cassian sighed. Midnight again. Of course, because nothing life-changing ever happens at brunch. 2. The echo chamber. The echo chamber wasn't a metaphor. It was real. Beneath the temple of public silence, behind a crumbling wall of no entry, unstable floor, lay a vast underground amphitheater carved into chalky stone. Cassian stepped inside. Every whisper bounced 5 times. A soft cough became a sermon. Waiting in the center were 5 figures cloaked in worn fabric stitched with names. Actual names, handwritten, then sewn in. Their leader, tall, female, with eyes like cracked amber, spoke. You sold a memory to the guild. We felt it ripple through the archive. You have access to the archive. We are the archive. Cassian. 3. Who are the memory rebels? They called themselves the Mimosan Circle. Scholars, ex-priests, former librarians, street witches, all exiled, punished, or erased for remembering too much. Their belief, memory should be sacred, not transactional. No one should profit from forgetting. Their goal, expose the Memoriam Guild, unseal the Grand Archive, a forbidden vault hidden beneath the Senate Tower. Return Valentian's stolen memories. Cassian asked the obvious question. Why me? Because you were naive enough to trade pain, but smart enough to ask what came next. Far. The coin's true purpose. The cracked-eyed woman, her name was Calra, pointed to Cassian's reverse coin. That coin isn't just a mark. It's a key. 1 of 7, lost across generations. Each coin grants access to a layer of the Grand Archive. The people who created the Whisper Market, they're using these coins to lock memory away. Cassian stared at the coin. I thought it was symbolic. Symbols are dangerous, especially ones you can drop down a drain. The risk of remembering, Calra warned him. Opening the archive won't be easy. Memory rebels are hunted. The Quiet Order monitors us. If they find out we're gathering the coins, a voice cut in from the darkness. They'll erase you and rewrite your replacement. It was Lika. Cassian blinked. You're a rebel. I'm your friend, and I'm tired of Velentia pretending people can be fixed with amnesia and soup. Lika tossed him a scroll. Here's the map to the next coin. It's in a fountain statue, inside the Bureau of Public Joy. Cassian blinked again. They named a building that. They're trying very hard. 6. The choice. Calra stepped forward. We're not forcing you to join, but you've seen enough to know what's broken. Will you help us remember? Cassian looked at the rebels, scarred, strange, determined. He thought of the man who gave him the coin, the girl he forgot, the voice that asked, who do you owe? Then he looked at Lika. If I say yes, what happens next? We start by stealing from a statue of a laughing senator. Sounds on brand. He nodded. I'm in 7, night before the storm. That night, Cassian lay awake. He ran his fingers over the coin. The grooves felt deeper now. The city outside was unusually quiet, or maybe it was just holding its breath. He wasn't just a man in the system anymore. Now, he was part of the resistance. Velentia didn't need more silence. It needed a voice. He whispered into the darkness. I remember. The word echoed 5 times. Then, quietly, a 6th. Would you fight for your memories? Even the painful ones? Would you help others remember the truths that power tried to bury? Tell me, what memory would you fight to protect at all costs? Like if you believe remembering is an act of rebellion, subscribe to join Cassian in Chapter 15. Bureau of Public Joy, Laughter, Lies, and Locks. Because when joy is regulated, sorrow hides behind the door. Bureau of Public Joy, Laughter, Lies, and Locks. Mandatory joy is just sorrow in costume. If you're imagining a place called the Bureau of Public Joy to be colourful, whimsical, and filled with balloons, you clearly haven't been to Velentia. Because in this city, even laughter has rules. Even joy gets audited. And Cassian, he's about to break into the most ironically terrifying place in town. Comment? What's the most fake forced smile environment you've ever been in? Like if you've ever laughed in public but died a little inside. 1. Welcome to the Smiling Prison. Located between the Ministry of Taxes and the Monument to Eternal Disappointment. The Bureau of Public Joy was a curved marble building shaped like a smile. If the smile had been carved by someone who had never actually smiled before, painted murals of citizens laughing lined the walls, too many teeth. No actual happiness. The building emitted faint music, a sort of flute meets cat scream ambience. Cassian stared at it and muttered, "I hate it already." Lika, dressed as a junior Joy auditor, handed him a clipboard. "Remember, smile with your lips, not your soul. That's how they know it's real." Do. The mission. Inside the central atrium stood the target, a marble fountain of Senator Cletius the Cheerful, eternally laughing while pouring wine onto a dove. According to Mnemosyne records, one of the 7 memory coins had been embedded into the fountain's base during the first year of enforced civic entertainment. Cassian and Lika had to bypass the laughter monitors, avoid triggering mood compliance protocols, and extract the coin without being Joy executed. The fountain, of course, had a plaque donated by citizens who truly enjoyed donating it. Cassian rolled his eyes so hard the clerk behind him blinked in concern. 3. Rules of the House. Upon entering, Cassian was issued a Joy compliance form. It included a self-assessment on current mood answers, must include the word delighted, a checkbox for willingness to sing if requested, and a list of banned phrases, including "This is absurd," "Help," and "Why is that statue vibrating?" He signed Cassian Flavius, emotionally average. No one noticed. That worried him more. 4. The laughter monitors. Patrolling the halls were mechanical entities known as gleam units. Part puppet, part bureaucrat, with faces like porcelain masks and voices like chipped wind chimes. They giggled in sync every 10 minutes. Joy check. Citizen, please rate your happiness from euphoric to exploding. Cassian smiled. Exploding. Internally. Approved. Proceed to hall of acceptable chuckles. They passed through rooms with forced joke listening stations, sarcasm calibration tests, and a gallery of paintings titled "When Sadness Was Illegal." Lika muttered. Velentia outlawed crying once. For 6 hours, it caused a riot. 5. Reaching the fountain. The statue loomed. Cassian noted the base slightly cracked, exactly where the coin was rumored to be hidden. But 3 gleam units guarded it, chattering about giggle quotas and chuckle distribution. Lika created a distraction, fake slipped on a banana peel prop left from the Comedy for the Poor exhibit. "Oh no, I'm a victim of unfortunate hilarity." Alert. Enthusiasm detected. Assistants deployed. As the gleams hovered to aid her with applause, Cassian slipped behind the fountain. He pulled a small chisel from his boot. Time to mine Joy for truth. Death. The second coin. Behind the loosened marble, the coin, black onyx, a reversed laughing mask carved into its surface. He felt a chill, like remembering something that hadn't happened yet. The coin pulsed as he held it just once, then fell silent. From the atrium, Lika shouted, "Time's up." Ugrim won. Extraction complete. Cassian returned with a grin so fake it could have qualified for office. Just another joyous citizen, dripping with delight and possibly anxiety. So, escape by promotion. On their way out, a clerk approached. "Citizen Flavius, your smile audit has triggered." "Review," Lika whispered. "Play dumb." "I'm not playing." The clerk scanned his badge. "Ah, you qualify for promotion to level 2, cheerleader. Please report to the confetti room," Cassian blurted. "I'm allergic to glitter and compliments." "Approved. Exemption noted. You may exit through the gift shop." They ran. The gift shop featured plush dolls of senators. One kept laughing even when smashed. Aye. Back to the echoes. That night, back in the echo chamber, Cassian placed the second coin beside the first. Calra nodded. 5 remain, each more protected than the last, each holding back the truth of who we were. Cassian asked, "What happens when all the coins are together?" The archive opens, and Velentia remembers what it tried to forget. Lika sat beside him, peeling dried paint off her sleeve. "Do you ever wonder, maybe Velentia doesn't want to remember?" Cassian looked at the 2 coins, side by side. "Doesn't matter. Some truths laugh their way out. Have you ever been told to smile when you didn't want to? Have you ever felt pressured to perform happiness while grieving? Tell me, what's one moment of forced joy you'll never forget? Like if you've ever felt laughter used against you." Subscribe for Chapter 16, House of Revisions, where the past gets rewritten. Because after forced joy comes voluntary history, and that may be the most dangerous fiction of all. House of Revisions, where the past gets rewritten. History is written by the victors and edited by committee, What if you could change the past? Not just forget it, but alter it, turn defeat into victory, scandal into praise, grief into applause. In Velentia, there is such a place, and its halls are quieter than any grave, because every whisper might be red ink. Comment? If you could revise one moment in history, personal or global, what would it be? Like if you've ever looked at a textbook and thought, wait, that's not what actually happened. 1. The building that shouldn't exist, hidden behind the monument to memory, through an alley with no name and a gate that vanishes when stared at, lies a building most citizens deny exists, the House of Revisions. No signs, no guards, just a door of polished obsidian, engraved faintly with moving letters that reshaped as you blinked. Cassian touched the handle. It was warm, Lika muttered. This place rewrote the tax riots into a pastry festival. Cassian grunted. Yeah, my uncle was arrested for excessive croissant enthusiasm. Dough. Inside the vault of fiction, the inside was sterile. Walls of parchment, floors of silence, floating inkwells moved with no hand. Names, events, and dates flowed like a liquid language across banners of invisible thread. At the far end, a pedestal, surrounded by 7 librarian judges in faceless masks. Above them hovered a symbol made of light, an open book, with its pages bleeding. Welcome, editors of consequence, said one. Cassian blinked. What now? Your possession of 2 memory coins qualifies you for preliminary amendment authority, Lika whispered. Is that legal? In Velentia, everything's legal once it's footnoted. 3. The price of rewriting. The librarian judges offered a deal. One of the coins could be used to open a vault holding a pivotal event in Velentian history. Cassian would be allowed to rewrite 1 line, which would ripple forward subtly into the present. But in return, he would lose a memory of equal narrative weight. Chosen randomly, Cassian considered, what's in the vault? 12 truths, some noble, some shameful, all edited. What happens if I refuse? Then someone else writes the story. Likely worse. He looked at the second coin. It pulsed once, softly, further, choosing the page. Cassian selected Vault 6, the purge of the silent cloister. Official records claimed it was a religious reformation. Calra insisted it was a massacre. Inside the vault, letters, journal fragments, burned icons, and at the center, a page labeled version 4, 3, 1 approved. He read the line, the cloister submitted freely and transitioned peacefully into civic compliance. Cassian clenched his jaw. He took the quill. The cloister resisted with silence and was buried before it could be heard. The page accepted the change. The room dimmed. A low rumble echoed behind the walls, like a truth waking up too early. Fine. The memory lost. As promised, a memory vanished. Cassian didn't know what it was, only that he suddenly didn't recognize the name etched into the ring on his hand. He stared at it, heart racing. Was I married? No idea, Lika said gently. But if the memory was taken, it mattered. He laughed. I guess history isn't the only thing getting edited. She looked at him, eyes sharp. Just make sure it's worth it. Sick before they leave. As they turned to exit, one librarian judge whispered, not all edits are done by hand. Some are seeded in dreams. Cassian froze. What dreams? You'll know. When the city forgets something it never learned. A scroll slid from the shadows, a map to coin 3. But it was incomplete. Torn. The final half written in a language that moved when stared at. Cassian pocketed it. He was getting used to confusion. 7. Return to the circle. Back at the echo chamber, Calra read the updated line from the purge. She smiled for the first time since they met. That truth has waited a long time. Lika handed her the scroll. Next coin's partially encoded. You know anyone who speaks living script? Calra grimaced. Yes, but we'll have to wake him up. And he's theatrical. Cassian rubbed his temples. Define theatrical. He once debated a brick for 6 hours. The brick lost. Cassian muttered. Oh good. I was worried this was getting too sane. What parts of your past have been edited by others? Or by yourself? What truths have been revised to be more comfortable? Share one history lesson you wish had been taught differently. Like if you've ever suspected the story you heard wasn't the whole truth. Subscribe for Chapter 17, The Archivist Who Argues with Stones, where Cassian meets a man who remembers everything, even what no one else should. The Archivist Who Argues with Stones. To remember everything is not a gift, it's a siege. Some people forget too easily, others forget on purpose, and then There's one man who remembers everything, including things no one ever told him. Cassian's next clue lies in a torn map, written in living script and unstable, evolving language, and there's only one man in all Velentia who can read it without his mind unraveling. He lives underground. He hasn't slept in 27 years. And yes, he once argued with a brick. The brick still has trauma. Comment? If you could remember everything with perfect clarity, would you want that power, like if you've ever debated a wall and lost? Into the memory maze. The entrance was disguised as a collapsed herbalist shop. Beneath broken shelves and mouldy lavender, a spiral stairwell carved into black salt rock. Cassian, Lika, and Calra descended into the Nemo labyrinth, a maze built not with stone, but with thought. Each hallway whispered old facts. The third prefect of Velentia never blinked. The word for mercy once meant wait. You were happier before you knew this. Cassian paused. Is this maze trying to gaslight me? Lika replied. Technically, it's truth light. To the archivist, at the heart of the maze. They found him, a man wrapped in scrolls like robes, his beard braided with index tabs, seated on a throne made of broken filing cabinets and memory stones. His name, Ifra Voltarius, known in the rebellion as the Mind Fortress. He did not look up when they entered. Instead, he whispered, the sun is a liar. Books are more honest, but only if you bleed on them first. Cassian cleared his throat. We have a map, so do all the dead people. Yours better not smell like envy. Lika raised an eyebrow. He always liked this, Calra replied. This is him coherent. 3. Decoding the living script. Cassian handed over the torn scroll. Ephra's eyes flickered. He inhaled the parchment. Literally. Oh, this is juicy. This language isn't just written. It's alive. It will read you as you read it. Is that dangerous? Cassian asked. Only if you fear judgment, or if you've ever lied to yourself. Which, oh dear, the script began to move, crawling like vines over Ephra's fingers. Symbols shifted, rearranged, argued with one another, then resolved into a sharp, glowing phrase. The next coin lies beneath the Theatre of Reconciliation. Cassian frowned. That place was condemned decades ago. Ifra grinned. So was I. 4. The memory rift. Before they could leave, the room trembled. The script had opened a rift, a temporal wound echoing one of Cassian's suppressed memories. From the walls, a scene played. A younger Cassian, standing in a field, laughing with a faceless figure. A picnic, then running, screaming. Fire, Calra gasped. That's not a memory you traded. Ephra nodded grimly. It's one you buried, Cassian whispered. I thought. I made peace with this. You didn't, Ephra said. You redacted it. The scene ended. Silence followed. Cassian sat down, shaken. How much more is hidden in me? Enough to power a rebellion, said Calra, or destroy one. Thanks. A deal with the archivist. Ifra offered one more gift, a key encoded in breath, a phrase that could unlock hidden doors in the Theatre of Reconciliation. You'll need to speak it backwards while exhaling grief. Literal grief, so maybe stub your toe first. Cassian sighed. I'll bring a hammer. Ifra added one condition. When you find the third coin, bring it to me, just for an hour. I want to listen to it. Calra looked wary. You're not planning to keep it, are you? I've never kept anything. I remember, so you don't have to. Cassian agreed. 1 hour, no edits. Ifra smiled for the first time. It looked like a glitch. 6. Leaving the labyrinth. On their way out, Cassian touched a wall of whispering stone. It murmured, You lied about your name when you were 6. You almost became a baker. You still miss the dog you claimed you didn't like. He whispered back. So do I. The wall fell silent, as if satisfied. Phew, back on the surface. They emerged into twilight. Cassian carried the scroll and the spoken key. He felt older not in body, but in weight. Lika handed him a flask. You okay? I remembered something I didn't know I forgot. That's the tagline of this whole rebellion. They turned toward the horizon. The ruins of the old theatre sat in the distance, tilted. Broken, defiant, Calra whispered. The next curtain rises. Memory is messy. It hides in walls, in smells, in quiet regret. Some of it we offer. Some of it is taken, and some we bury, hoping no one digs deep enough. Tell me, have you ever uncovered a memory that changed how you saw yourself? Like if you've ever met someone who remembers too much. Subscribe for Chapter 18, Theatre of Reconciliation, where silence takes the stage. Because the next coin isn't buried in stone. It's buried in performance. Theatre of Reconciliation. where silence takes the stage. When the truth cannot be spoken, it must be performed badly. At first, everyone's worn a mask. Some of us just never took it off. Cassian's journey for the third memory coin leads him to the ruins of the Theatre of Reconciliation. Once the heart of Velentia's propaganda, now a collapsed monument to performative forgiveness. But behind the old curtains and dust lies a truth that refused to stay silent. And a role no one wants to play. Comment? Have you ever had to pretend just to get through something? Like if you've ever clapped for something you hated just to stay safe? 1. The theatre that remembers. They reached the theatre just past dusk, once majestic, now crumbling under the weight of rewritten scripts and forgotten applause. Its facade bore cracks where marble muses once danced. The title carved above the entryway had been scratched out and rewritten several times. Now it simply read, Theatre of Reconciliation. Silence is consent. Lika lit a lantern. This place used to stage trials. With musical numbers. I went to one as a kid, Kalra added. The defendant was guilty of historical distortion. They made him sing a duet with the guy who arrested him. Cassian didn't laugh. How do we know the coin's still here? Because Velentia would rather forget theatre than burn it. Kalra said, it's cheaper to pretend it never happened. 2. The stage still breathes. Inside. The lobby was lined with faded posters, heroes smiling too hard, traitors with blacked out eyes, slogans like, forgive loudly, or you may be misunderstood. The theatre doors creaked open. The main hall was strangely intact. Rows of velvet seats faced a heavy red curtain. On stage, a spotlight was on. No power, no audience. The stage was waiting. Cassian stepped onto it, and the curtain rose. 3. Entering the play. As the curtain rose, the world changed. The theatre dissolved around them, replaced by a scene war-torn, bleak, too detailed to be fake. But it wasn't memory. It was narrative. The play has begun, Kalra whispered. What play? Cassian asked. The Last Reconciliation, she said. Banned. But the theatre remembers it. Scripts appeared in their hands. Costumes shimmered onto their bodies. Cassian looked down. He was dressed as a tribunal officer, holding a gavel. Lika wore a prisoner's cloak. Kalra, a silent scribe. We have to perform, Lika said. It's the only way forward. What if I mess up the lines? Then the story writes you out. For seeing eye, judgment. A set formed around them. Stone walls, a lone spotlight. A figure appeared hooded, kneeling, face shadowed. Cassian's script told him to accuse. You are charged with memory treason. He read, Do you deny you remembered? The hooded man remained silent. Then your silence condemns you. He didn't want to say it, but his feet were rooted. His mouth moved. Erase his voice. Replace it with applause. As he finished, canned clapping echoed around the theatre. The hooded figure vanished. Kalra exhaled. That was the ghost. The role holds the coin. Then how do we reach it? You have to become him. Pfft. Scene 2. The ghost. In the next scene, Cassian found himself alone on stage. The world faded to grey. He wore a mask, now white porcelain, cracked across the cheek. The script in his hands pulsed. The ghost's monologue. He began. I spoke once. Truth, raw and bitter. No harmony, no rhythm. So they gave me silence. They stitched it into my throat. Now I drift between scenes, forgotten by plot, hunted by senses. As he spoke, shadows gathered at the edge of the stage. Watching, Cassian felt the floor soften. One more line. Arise me, so the rest can sleep. He said it. The floor collapsed. 6. The coin beneath. He landed in a hollow chamber below the stage. Soft gold light pulsed from the center, where a coin lay atop a broken prompter's pedestal. This one wasn't like the others. It shimmered not with memory, but with repetition. Etched on it, one word. Again. He picked it up. The walls pulsed. A voice not his whispered. How many times have you forgotten me before? He had no answer. 7. Curtain call. Cassian climbed back just as the stage began to dissolve. The theatre was collapsing around them, not physically, but narratively. Props broke. Lines blurred, and voices rose. Encore, encore, encore. Ghosts of characters circled the stage. Each wore his face. Each whispered lines he hadn't said yet. Tell the story right this time. Don't let them clap for lies. You know how this ends. He stepped center stage, took off the mask. I'm not a character anymore. And the curtain fell. Arth, leaving the lie. Back in the real theatre, dust choked the air. Kalra looked at the coin in Cassian's hand. 3 now. We're halfway. Cassian sat, exhausted. Every coin costs more. We knew it would. Lika spoke quietly. You okay? He shook his head. I lied too well. Then let's make sure the next truth isn't scripted. We all act. For work. For family. For survival. But what happens when we forget the performance is supposed to end? When you wear the mask so long, it fits better than your face. Tell me, what's one mask you've worn that no longer serves you? Like if you've ever wanted to walk off stage mid-scene. Subscribe for Chapter 19, The Ash Archive, where banned truths still burn. Because Velentia has a vault for memories. It couldn't bury, but couldn't quite kill.